don't get thrown in the can. You might as well be dead or be a 30-year man, be a 30-year man. They always seem to lose re-enlistment blues. Recruiting crews give me the blues, re-enlistment blues.
So from Hong Kong, and Hong Kong for the last generation,
I'm BetaMarshall.com, the Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations with
I realize that this is something he is
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, good morning, Cleveland. Welcome to Whoop Radio right here in downtown Cleveland at the Village Green Town Center. We've got a big lineup here for you this morning in the studio. Got Mr. John Stanberry, one of our regular stand-ins, and Franklin Chansey couldn't make it this morning, so he sent us two Democrats down here to kind of fill in for him since he's worked so hard at it. We've got Miss Sally Love. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you. Good morning.
Sally was an executive committee woman for the 22nd District, and she's a former state rep, so she should have a lot of good input this morning. And we've got one of our regulars, that Mr. Ron Moore. He came into the studio, was going to visit with us a little while this morning. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, and let me start out. No, John. I just had to start out right up.
That's the party of no.
Yeah. Well, John and I agree on a lot of things, but not everything. How's that?
Well, we've talked about that. The problem in America is we should be able to agree on the problem and disagree a little bit on maybe how we approach the problem. Unfortunately, we've got a mindset that if you don't approach the problem the way I want you to, you're evil and horrible, and you don't agree with the problem.
You need to change the Republican Party's attitude, then. Is that the one that has that attitude?
No, we don't have that attitude at all. We're confident enough in our beliefs that we'll have a debate. You all are the ones that are labeling people racist and Hitler and things like that.
Well, now that's not true. John,
I don't know. Ask the
Democrat
chairman of California.
Let's just get this thing started off right this morning.
We are started off.
I know,
this is how we go.
Ron came in, and he's brought a book on some of the rules and regulations.
I brought 5 pages.
Okay, a 5-page. His book on the rules and regulations that on a big debate.
I want to give that to John.
A couple of weeks ago.
Well, actually, I had that last week, and I didn't bring it back with me.
Anyway, I'm going to and Sally's going to fill in on this, too. They're going to both team up on you on this.
I know.
This is from a comment made a few weeks ago. So go ahead.
Okay, well, basically, this is the rule from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This says on the law that passed in 96 by Bill Clinton, this is the rule that everybody's talking about, John, that you've talked about. And basically, if you go down there for the purpose, it says they have allowed each state to change the way they do things as long as the procedures are designed to improve employment outcomes to needy family. That's all this is. It does not say that the welfare no longer requires the work portion of it. It does. It's still required. The state still has to meet at least 50% of their people on the program have to be working. That is the ultimate goal on all of them. Nowhere in this bill does it says that you do not have to work. Matter of fact, it's just the opposite.
Ron, where's the definition for work in this resolution? Because they changed the definitions.
No.
And the original bill passed by Bill Clinton specifically did not allow any changes to the work provision. It's in the original language.
There's no change to work provision. Basically, work is getting a job that's 30 hours per week.
I think there's some argument over that, and I don't have I had my information last week.
I mean, I work in the Tennessee program here, and the
which
Tennessee
means
program is,
you're a completely unbiased source on this.
No, I've worked for the Democrats and Republican administrations both. Basically, they're all the same is if you put a person to work. Now, you may not like the type of job they have, and some of them I think are a little ridiculous, but at the same time, I've got people who are nurses,
Your argument
CNAs.
definition of work. Isn't
The
it?
definition of work. There's two problems.
kinda
It's a job.
The
kinda like
original bill, anticipating this, actually specifically disallowed any changes to the work requirement. It's in the original
Well, there is no
language of
change
the
to the
bill.
work requirement. Basically, what
It
work
added
is
to the definitions of work.
work is this: if you're making at least $7.25 per hour, that is a job. No matter how you make that money, $7.25 per hour. If you're only making $100 a week, then you're not working 30 hours. So it's $7.25 an hour is the requirement to count as a job. You can't be something out there and just say, "Oh, babysitting," as an example, is I'm going to make $40 a week babysitting my friend's children. That's not a 40 an hour a week job. That's, you take the $40, you divide it by 7.25, and you come up with what, about 7 hours. So you're required to have a job that is at least 30 hours and making $7.25.
Well,
I didn't
Ron-
bring you the whole book. I've got a book out there if you'd like to see all the
Well,
rules.
one of the problems, Ron, is the bill was passed by the duly elected representatives of Congress.
Yes.
What exactly was the reason that an unelected body such as this
Well, if you'll read
has
there-
the authority to change a duly passed, signed by a Democrat?
Okay.
I
Let's
can
go.
answer that. Hey, I went to law school.
Yes.
Every time Congress passes a bill, it's sent to a committee or to an organization that makes the rules, and it is called the Code of Federal Regulation, CFR, and that is the real nitty-gritty of how a law is implemented. If you look at the statutes, generally they're pretty broad. The CFR gets down to the specifics. Now, in this particular circumstance, a waiver was issued by the federal government to several states. Several governors asked the federal government for waivers because this law, the law that requires people who apply and receive welfare to work, the governors asked for a waiver because, hey, guess what? We have a high unemployment rate for people who are not on welfare. We have a high unemployment rate for people who don't receive government assistance. There are just not enough jobs for people to meet this work requirement who receive welfare. So the governors asked for and received a waiver. However, this is only temporary, and it requires the states to come up with programs to help people work. In no way does this waiver eliminate the need for welfare, for people to work and receive welfare. And to settle this argument, hey, go down to the Department of Human Services and apply for welfare, and you will find out what the regulations are. You don't have to.
The problem, though, is we're in Tennessee. Tennessee is a conservative state. The problem with this is it granted the states leeway that wasn't in the original bill. Look, if y'all want to do this, then bring it up in Congress and vote on it, which is the American way. Ron, why didn't, when the Democrats had control of both the House and the Senate, if this was such a problem, why didn't they do it the right way? Why didn't they pass legislation and change this? And why in the original bill did it actually specifically say they didn't want this to happen? It's in the original language of the bill.
In Section 1115 of the Social Security Act, it gives them the right to administer rules.
But But this bill specifically anticipated this and said you cannot change the work requirements.
And they have not.
They did. They added to the list.
No,
Ron. The
sir.
work requirement in the original bill had specific requirements.
Well,
They
nowhere,
added to the
nowhere
list.
in this paper does it say that.
Well, hold on.
It does not say
Let's get both copies and look at them. Right now, we're just arguing over paper that none of us have read.
Well, that's the way this administration works. Paper that no one's read and waivers given to. I mean, think about that.
The waivers are for the state of Tennessee to say, we've got a better idea on how to spend the funds that come through here, as long as it puts people to work. The secretary said
bill, Ron, was extremely specific on what work was.
Yes.
And this alters that.
No, it does not. There's no way. There is not one word in there that says this alter what the work is. This is the rule. This is the rule right here. This is it in a nutshell. 5 pages. That's the only thing that come out from the secretary. Now, if Tennessee wants to do it different, they have to submit a rule. They have to submit it to the secretary. She will go through it and decide you can or cannot do this. You still have to have 50% of your
now,
people
you mean
working.
they'll submit a request to
Yes.
the administration that granted waivers to all the union states on multitudes of the bills that we've passed and denied it to any of the
This
the
is
non-union
about people who don't have jobs, and we're trying to get them jobs.
This is
all
about
this is
process and American way of doing government, Ron. And if you want to
Gosh.
change something, they should duly pass it through Congress. This is an imperial president. When he doesn't
don't
get his
start
way,
that.
he's going to wave his hand, which waver's a good word for that, and say, I, by the sole authority of my superior intelligence, I'm going to change this.
Well, let's go back to the No Child Left Behind. Tennessee asked for a waiver on implementing some of the requirements of No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind was George W. Bush's
Actually, it was
bill.
Ted Kennedy.
Well,
was the co-author of
well,
that. It was it was hugely popular bipartisan effort.
That's
That's where both sides get along.
Yes, exactly. But it doesn't matter who was the president who passed a law. The thing is, you can, in certain instances, you can ask for waivers. It's to help the states do what they need to do.
You can ask for a waiver, Sally, and you know this. When the president does a waiver, he can do it. And if you think that it's an illegal action on his part, someone has to come up with the money, take him to court. It has to go through years of court wrangling, and eventually you'll get a ruling. The problem with this is it's undemocratic. If the president had the control of the House and the Senate for the first 2 years he was in office, if the No Child Left Behind was such a problem, why didn't they legislatively attack that? Why didn't they rewrite it and pass a new bill? Why didn't they let the people who were elected to represent us make that decision?
Why were the Republican governors asking for this exactly? Including Mitt Romney when he was in office?
Ron, my point is, I don't care who asked for it. There is an American way of government, and you pass.
It doesn't change the law. It does not change the law.
It does change the law, and you know it.
Well,
no, it doesn't. All it does is suspend the enforcement of certain requirements.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Sally, because the original legislation specifically says nothing can be changed or suspended in the work requirements.
Well,
the work requirements not changed. The work is how we get to work requirements.
Bro, that's you're playing
What's
esoteric.
What's the definition of it?
Well, this is a lawyerly exercise in gutting the proposal, which is what it does. Now, Ron, in the state of Tennessee, it's not being gutted because you have conservative Republican leadership in Tennessee that's not going to gut it. But let's go look in California what they're going to do with it. Let's look at what they're going to do with it in New York.
There's still a bottom line that they cannot go under.
But they changed the definitions of what substitutes for work.
Okay, tell me what you say it was changed to. Where's the piece of paper?
They allowed if you're babysitting an hour a week in some states.
That's absolutely wrong. You have to make $7.25 an hour and up to 30 hours. That's what's called working in TANF. You have to be making $7.20. If you're working 1 hour a week, you do not have a job in TANF. End of subject.
I will bring you in. I had it last week, and we didn't bring it up.
Bring it from the department. I've got the 69-page rule.
The problem with the department is we're not a government of departments. We're a government of representatives.
Yes,
we elected. We pass a rule, then we hand it to this administration.
But here's the problem, Ron. A lot of us, conservative and liberal, think that's where the problem exists. We have unelected bodies making these decisions and cramming it down our throat. This is like the 2,500-page health care bill that no one's seen. When you multiply the 2,500-page bill by the tens of thousands of pages of department-issued documents,
Tennessee,
no one will know what happened.
You said Tennessee, conservative state.
We got more than one thing to talk about.
Well, let me finish this up here. This is a conservative state. They have told the state of Tennessee by this rule, if you have a better way to spend our money more wisely and put more people to work, then you can do it. So now, is Tennessee going to take advantage of this? Are they going to be able to save money? Are they going to be able to be more efficient? Are we going to put more people to work? That's what this rule says right here,
Ron,
where it says
you
purpose.
and I are arguing two different things. What I'm telling you is, by process, He violated the way the American government is supposed to work, which he's done on multiple other issues. He's, this immigration thing. He couldn't get his immigration bill passed. He knew it has exactly to do with immigration, because what he did was, as usual, he did an executive order. He bypassed the will of the people, the Congress. He did an executive order, and the only way to show
only president's ever done an executive order.
It's the only president that's done it like he's done it, where you've actually bypassed the will of. In this particular case, you changed legislation.
I don't think Congress at this particular point expresses the will of the people. I think Congress approval rating is what? 0.1%. I think everyone across the board, liberal, conservative, short people, tall people, old people, young people, really don't have much regard for Congress because they're not solving the problems. Just what John said. He said that we can all identify a problem. We may disagree on how it's to be fixed. We may want to fix it with a red Band-Aid or a blue Band-Aid or a pink one or a yellow one. The problem is with Congress is that all they want to do is complain, and they're not coming up with solutions. There have been solutions put forth, and they just sit on it. They want to do is
Democrat and Republican.
Exactly. They want. When I say they, I mean everybody. All they want to do is complain. For example, John brought up immigration. Now, we've had a problem for years and years and years, and there are solutions out there, and you can take one issue at a time, and you can come up with something. It may not be perfect, nothing is, but you can at least come up with something. President Bush, George W. Bush, proposed an immigration bill, and his own party shot it down. Now, I'm sure there are good things in it, and I'm sure there are bad things, but the thing is, we'd rather complain than get up and fix the roof.
Well, let me just give you a synopsis of what Sally just said. Instead of changing the Congress every 2 years, like our Constitution says, she's basically endorsed an imperial president who operates as a dictator. Your Congress isn't doing what you want. The president gets to wave his scepter and say, "I'm going to do it without Congress."
How did you say that?
All right.
Sally?
How did I say the word imperial? I haven't said that
since you were defending.
I watched Star Wars.
We don't know the Republican code words, do we?
And by the way, Marco Rubio had a bipartisan effort going that was probably within weeks of announcing a compromise immigration bill, and that's why the president did his immigration reform, because he was scared to death of Marco Rubio.
All right.
As long as it got done, who cares?
Hey,
that question's
round two.
All right, Sally, you went to the Democratic National Convention.
Yes, I did.
All right, tell me a little bit about it. Now, there was a big controversy on the floor when there was a vote taken, when the word God was being put back in, and they were trying to define talk about Israel and so forth. So, there was a big hoopla. I was watching that live, and I was just amazed, really, of the outcome of that, and then the total outcome really amazed me. But tell me, you were there, you voted. How did the vote come out?
Well,
I know you're a truthful person. Don't make me get the Bible out here now.
Okay, let me tell you, first of all, where I was sitting up high. Okay, and there was lots of noise, people coming and going, because it was, how it is when you have tens of thousands of people. And we voted 3 times.
Why?
Well,
why didn't you just vote once?
I wasn't in charge, but hey, they said call for vote. I raised my hand.
You just vote as many times as you need.
That's right. Remember, I've come from Polk County, and we vote live people and dead people. Okay, that's a joke. That's a joke. I think a lot of people there, and again, the whole thing took everyone, at least took me by surprise, and the people sitting around me by surprise, because we were there for other things. But the first vote, he said he couldn't tell what was yes or no, and the second and the third. Sometimes I thought the noes had it, to tell you the truth, but it was not a vote against God. It was not a vote against whether Israel should be whether Jerusalem should be the capital of Israel. I think the controversy or the disagreement was from having to come up with this amendment to the platform when everyone knew that it was a knee-jerk reaction to the criticism from the people on the right.
In other words, the Republicans picking up on the issues that this was not in the format.
Why was it taken out?
Now that's not what they were saying. They were saying that President Obama realized that all of a sudden that it was out and that he wanted it in.
I have no idea.
That's the way they were reporting it.
Well, I'm people report that. That we've never been to the moon. I don't know who they are.
I was listening, watching this live, and I was kind of just oohed and awed with the outcome of this vote. Now then, I want to put your headsets on. I want us to hear this one more time.
Okay.
All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the
That's vote
Let me
number
do that
one.
again.
Okay.
All of those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no.
That was vote number two. Now then, a lady comes up on stage and says, "You got to do what you got to do."
She's the rule lady.
Well, plus the teleprompter already had the rule in the teleprompter. It's amazing you can predict.
You know that for a fact.
Well, they have a picture of it, Ron.
I saw it.
It was on the side, yeah.
I'll do that one more time.
Wait a
Ask you a
minute.
question.
I want to hear this.
All those delegates in favor say aye. All those delegates opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 have voted in the affirmative. The motion is adopted, and the platform has been amended as shown on the screen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now then,
Yes.
there's a term going around right now. That's exactly how Obamacare got passed.
That's not. I don't know what the rumor is, but that's not true.
They're saying that's how Obamacare got passed. They just ram it through. There's no way that was a 2/3 vote, Sally.
I know that.
Sally,
but
why
yeah.
didn't someone call for a voice or a question and do it actually by balloted vote?
I don't know.
And why would anybody vote against putting that back in?
Yeah.
Well, again, it was not a vote against God. It was not a vote against Jerusalem.
Well, then why was it taken out in the first place? It's been in there for decades.
I don't know why did Governor Mitt Romney leave out Afghanistan and the troops.
That's a speech that he gave, not the party platform.
Well,
and
it's
the
the
word
same
was
thing.
that Obama signed off on this party platform.
Well, the word is, I don't know. There's rumor going around. I don't have any factual information. All we have right now is speculation and innuendo. All of this
Well, I can
passing
give you
for
some
fact.
information. The Republican Party platform mentions Mitt Romney one time. The Democrat Party platform mentions Obama over 200 times. He's on 38 of 40 pages of the platform. So it seems
we're proud of our guy.
It seems completely reasonable to platform. My point is, a president controls a platform, an incumbent president. He had the language removed, and then when it got out, he tried to go, "Oh, here I come to save the day," and then was humiliated by a party who, well over half probably, actually booed and voted no against God.
Well, first of all, I don't know for a fact if President Obama had the words removed or not. Again, all we
he's not
have
in control of the platform of his own party?
all we have is speculation at this point. All we have is gossip, speculation, innuendo. I don't know. I cannot tell you why it was left out. I don't know. But God is God, and God doesn't depend on whether or not his name's on a little piece of paper or not.
All right. That's the end of that one.
Okay. do we get refreshments?
There's something. Yeah, everybody take a sip of water here,
Okay.
coffee, whatever. There's something new came out this week about General Motors. General Motors executives are wanting the Treasury Department to sell its almost 27% stake in the company because they say the feds are hurting their image and government pay restriction are chasing away talent. Anyway, the article goes on to talk about the Treasury officials aren't interested in selling because it would mean posting a multi-billion-dollar loss during an election year. This is the Wall Street Journal reporting this, by the way. GM officials offered to repurchase 200 million of the 500 million shares the Feds hold, with the balance being sold via public offering. Government officials weren't interested in the deal. At GM's Friday share price, $24.14 was the U.S. would lose about $15 billion on the GM bailout if it sold its entire stake. While GM stock would need to reach $53 a share to the U.S. to break even, Treasury officials would consider selling in the 30s. But look at the Treasury's point of view. What would it look like if they agreed to the deal and posted a multi-billion-dollar loss while the president was going around repeating the Obama's dead and GM's alive mantra?
Well, regardless if it's an election year or not, you buy low and you sell high. You're not going to sell your stock and lose money typically, and especially when it's someone else's money, when it's the taxpayers' money, when it's my money, it's your money. We bailed out GM. They ought to be darn grateful that we
bailed out the United Auto Workers is what we did.
That we bailed out Ford, Chrysler, well, not Ford,
we didn't
but
bail
Chrysler.
Out Ford. They
That's what
haven't
I
needed it.
corrected
One of
myself.
the most successful ones in the world.
And GM.
And congratulations to Ford in making a great product right now too. I agree with that 100%.
Right.
Well,
so
why didn't we allow GM to go into structured bankruptcy like any other company did?
Because GM did not want to go into structured
no company
bankruptcy.
wants to go in.
Because the consensus was that there was concern.
Now, who was this consensus? This meeting of consensus happened when?
That the GM people, the executives, and the powers that be felt that the bankruptcy courts were not equipped to handle a structured bankruptcy. I don't know.
Believe that?
I don't know. I don't practice bankruptcy law. I don't know.
Well, let me ask a question, Sally. The people that got us into this, the GM executives, the only real difference between what Mitt Romney said should happen, which was a structured bankruptcy, and what the president did was the very GM executives who caused the problem are still in place at the company. The only thing that was protected was the union contracts of the UAW, the contracts that actually increased the worker costs that made GM unproductive in the first place.
Did they have to take concessions?
No, actually they didn't. Ron, the worst thing, you want to talk about this, the worst thing is the Delphi employees. Now, you all take this one on for me. Mm-hmm. The Delphi employees lost everything. They lost their, most of them had worked for decades with GM. The president went in, he killed all of their retirement, all of their pensions, everything, their health care. But here's the best part. Romney. Here's the best part. The Delphi employees who were union members actually got a bump up in their pensions. So explain that one to me. I'm a Delphi employee. I'm non-union and I'm wiped out. But I'm a Delphi employee and I'm a member of the UAW and I actually get a bump up. You tell me how that's equal.
Bottom line is, did we save GM?
No, we didn't. They're going under.
No, they'll be broke. They'll be broke.
The largest
president's term.
The largest portion of the money that they spent was spent in China. So we finance jobs in China for GM.
Well, we'll see.
As a matter of fact, if the government wasn't buying volts, the whole electric car thing that they're doing would go under.
All right, let's continue to talk about unions a little bit. What about the teacher strike up in Chicago? Should that have happened or not?
Well, I'll defend the right for anyone to join a union. I'm not a pro-union person, never have been. I'm a Democrat, never been a pro-union.
I'll defend the right of them to join it, too, in an open, free election.
Yeah. Well, in a union, it's Tennessee.
No, it's not. In
Tennessee, we have unions. What do you think?
We also are a right-to-work state.
This is a Democrat mayor there.
We are a right-to-work state, though, Ron. Yeah. There's a huge difference.
I think it's sad that we have to have strikes for any reason.
We don't have to have strikes.
Well, if you don't take care of your people.
Now let me see. Wait a minute. $76,000 a year annual salary of a Chicago teacher. The average Chicago citizen makes $47,000.
This is a problem in the city of Chicago.
They asked for a 60% increase over 5 years.
They were offered.
I don't agree with what the teachers did there. What they're asking for.
It's Obama's boys.
just because Obama, he worked there.
That's
Now,
from
he
his
is
own
now
town.
the
No,
mayor.
no. He went to the teachers union and said, "I'll support your right to strike anytime. I'll be with you in the streets."
I didn't say it was right.
Why is the union
what's
so
it
involved
important
in
to
the
be
White
here in
House?
Cleveland, Tennessee right now?
Well, unions, like corporations,
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of clout. They have money. They have influence.
Where do they get their money?
From the dues.
From the dues.
Force,
Now, wait a
force
minute. If
dues?
I live in
Well,
a non-right to work
if you
state,
belong to
yeah.
the Elks, you pay dues.
yeah, but
If
wait a
you
minute,
belong to the
Sally, I can
Rudens, you pay
choose
dues.
whether I belong to the Elks or
That's
not. If
right.
I live in a non-right to work state
Well-
and I want to work at, say, a GM plant, can I choose not to belong to the UAW?
But John, we have no control over what the people of
You have
Illinois
a
do.
president in office that thinks
No,
that's
but
the right
the
thing
state
to
of
do.
Illinois votes for those laws.
That's
Tennessee
the
voted for right.
president's home state. That's his people. It's where he comes from. It's what he believes.
But he doesn't control the state legislature that passed that years ago.
What about in Wisconsin right now? With
where he waded into that.
Yeah. What about Wisconsin right now? Everything that was that everybody walked out about, everybody struck about,
and then had a recall, which was reaffirmed.
That's right. Had a recall.
Then
Which
One
reaffirmed.
judge
Then
has
you
struck
win.
that
And then
down.
you've had
no
one judge-
one liberal judge said, "I don't care what the will of the people is," because he's taking his cues from the dictatorial president.
You
and said,
can't
"I'm
say
gonna wade
that
into this
about
whole
a
thing."
judge.
So health care is okay now. Because a judge, a
Ron,
conservative
I don't agree.
judge.
Listen, I don't agree with it, but you're right. The Supreme Court ruled.
Okay, well, so that's the same with us. You know, there's a lot of things that happen I don't agree with, but under
But
our
Ron,
current...
the Supreme Court in that case ruled on a law that had been passed, even though I disagreed with it. It was passed by Congress. This judge in Wisconsin ruled against a law that had been duly passed by
This is
elected
state. This is
representatives.
Judges
state-
will do that.
Right or wrong, the judges did it. You brought it up, Steve.
I know I brought it up. I brought it up so we could talk about it. A good moderator does those things.
You are a good moderator.
All
and I
right.
love your bell.
All right, now then, it's time for us to take a little break. Cause
And I've
we're
gotta go,
top,
guys, and
Top of
I-
the hour. Now, wait a minute, Ron. You can stay a few more minutes. I've got to go to jury duty this morning, so I'm going to have to leave a little early myself, but I'm going to stay here as long as I can. We'll be back in just a few minutes. We'll open up the phone lines. And, Ron, I know somebody's going to want to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Well, they can call
You're
me
listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee.